a tough question because there's so many aspects to what I'm doing right now. So just my specific job and not what our organization is doing. And I think what I really like about my day-to-day work is the diversity of topics, of people, of projects, inspirations that I meet, that I'm encountered actually day to day, and that's quite a strong driver for me why I like to do what I'm doing. And then not second, but it's on the same level that after working for fashion companies, fashion brands for many years, I actually have the understanding of my position in our organization that we're there to support, to help young brands become more successful, to become more sustainable, to become more digital. And I think what also drives me and what's the fun part about it, why I like it, is I try to help people maybe to avoid mistakes that I did in the past when I was working for fashion brands, because everyone does mistakes, everyone has different experiences, and that certainly is one of my drivers, helping people to avoid mistakes and to share experiences. Massively, actually. So when I started in the fashion industry, and I didn't start in the fashion industry when I started my career, so I was working for a consulting company from the US. And when I started in the fashion industry, it was far from digital. It was far from being sustainable. And of course, people do say, and it's true that today we're still far from being sustainable, but at least the mindset is there. And when I started, that wasn't a topic. And even the digital era wasn't a topic at all. We were still working. The digital side of the fashion industry was Excel, was Word, and if you were lucky, you had an ERP system as a young brand. And that's changed so drastically in all kind of aspects, which is good. It's a good movement into that direction, and that's the major change. And the second major change is, of course, that the consumer is much more aware, is much more educated. He's much more informed through social media and through the entire speed of communication today. That wasn't the case back then. I'm speaking with many fashion brands in Germany, so I have lots of inputs constantly coming towards us. But I also have the experience that we have within our organization, and with launching new projects, with launching new initiatives and new events. I think that the big lessons learned is that there are solutions to become more digital, and in German we say die Eintrittsschwelle, so the entry level, and the barrier to start working with digital solutions is actually so small, and you were forced to think about new ways, think about new approaches. If it's selling your product, if it's producing your products, developing your products, being interaction between your manufacturer who's not locally and you couldn't travel. And I suddenly just watched all these companies say, okay, we have to do something now. This is not a project like we maybe talked about it in the past that we're going to do that one day. Oh, let's think about a new ERP system. Oh, let's think about a new guest management system. Let's put that on our agenda maybe for next year or the year after. So suddenly, from small companies to large corporations, they were suddenly just changing their way of working, and they found solutions. And I used to work for a consulting company, and it was tough back then when we had to implement certain new tools, and you had this resentment also from employees. And I found that now different. So I found that everyone was actually open to exploring new solutions, and that was actually quite a nice experience. And everyone I speak to actually says the same, that that's something that they saw, And there's another thing, which it's not so much the digital, but the digital does help, um, that all this home office. So before lockdown, you were speaking with companies or with CEOs, and of course, there was maybe some kind of skepticism. Will home office work? Is that really a good model? And I think lockdown has proven, well, at least me and also the companies that I speak to, that it does work, and that in the future there will maybe be more trust also in your team, in your organization, that this new working model will work. But on the other hand, what I've learned also from myself and from my organization, that the digital world isn't the only world. So I think if launch metrics, for example, they're not only going to be the tool who's going to prepare and support for digital venues, for example. Of course, it will always be now digital, but it also has to be physical. I saw that here with our organization, that the team was even asking, can we please come out of home office, and can we gradually come back into the office? I see it with venues. I mean, you want to speak with people, you want to touch and feel their clothes, not their clothes, but their collections.
Mm.
um, and I think that's also what I learned from this, that the solution won't be that you're just going to be sitting behind your computer at home. You want interaction. That's what we are there for. We are human. And that's also a big lesson learned, that I think the future will be a hybrid. It will be a mixture between physical and digital, and the digital will have more acceptance, and people will be using more digital solutions than they did in the past, which is good because we believe that that is the future, and that is a strong method to become more sustainable in all kind of ways. Less travel, less waste in your collection development, and so on and so on. So a big eye opener during the pandemic. I think it would be a magic machine, a de-speedometer, a de-stressor, a de-pacer. Because I think with all these tools that we have now in hand, well, we had them also before, but now we're actually using them. We're using them more. I noticed that we're becoming faster and faster and faster. Now, I'm an older generation. Maybe the younger generation can cope with that quite well. But I think that we do have to find a way to not constantly increase speed. That's one of the reasons maybe why you hear about so many burnouts, that you hear about so many depressions. That I think there has to be a really, really intelligent way and a form to balance all this new technologies that's coming in, along with with a faster way of working, and that's why I think that definitely would be my de-stressor, my de-speeder, that people can just press a button and it's just slower. I think it's just relax. There's always a solution. I think that's basically what I would always try and tell myself. When I look back at my younger years, um, I was impatient in certain situations. When something went wrong, that was a disaster.
Yeah.
And now that's why I also try and tell my team that, just communicate, and there's always a solution. Always. I've never, even looking back, I've never had a situation where it's like a dead end. If it's a dead end, then you'll still find a way to get out of that. Or as my mom always said, if in dark times or in hard times, or if it's a problem, that's nothing else but a room where there's no light. And she always just said, you have to just look for the light switch. That's all. That's all you have to do in that moment. And I think I would try and tell myself that more often, and make me understand that.